We have the pleasure of welcoming Chuck Brook to our interview series. I'm Vanessa Rose from the Engati team. Let's begin with just a quick introduction of Engati. Engati is the world's leading multilingual no-code chatbot platform, available across 14 channels with 25,000 bots created across 186 countries in every domain and use case. We run the Engati blog and the video channel, which receives upwards of 300,000 visitors annually. And now for our guest, Chuck Brooks is a globally recognized thought leader for cybersecurity and emerging technologies. He is a president of Brooks Consulting International and an adjunct faculty at Georgetown University. LinkedIn named Chuck as one of the top 5 tech people to follow on LinkedIn. He was named by Thomson Reuters as the top 50 global influencer in risk, by IFSCC as the second global cybersecurity influencer, and as a top 50 global marketer. He is also a cybersecurity expert for the network at the Washington Post, visiting editor at Homeland Security Today, and a contributor to Forbes. Welcome, Chuck. We are thrilled to have you.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
So, Chuck, let's start with the first question. How ready for you do you think the customer service industry is, and what role do you think AI plays in bringing about that change?
Well, I think there's a technological transformation taking place. COVID-19 or no COVID-19, the whole world has been changing towards digital in the last few years, and our capacity to basically tap into machine learning and artificial intelligence to be algorithms has sort of reshaped the whole landscape of the ability to analyze data, to focus on trends, to look at special patterns. And this is being applied, it's definitely being applied now to fighting the virus, but it's also been applied to a whole variety of industries, from medical technology to cybersecurity to manufacturing to industrial. Everything is being affected. And I see see artificial intelligence as probably being one of the more sort of Malthusian game changers in the next decade, where everything is going to be related to some sort of capacity for machines to operate with more autonomy, and for our lives to be it will definitely be shaped in a different way.
What do you think businesses need to do to take charge now once this is all over?
Once this is all over, I think they have to reevaluate how they do business. I think one of the things we're looking at is a remote economy and globally, where a lot of people can now do business from their house or from wherever they reside, or if they're back in the office too. So I think the whole sort of ecosystem is going to be changed. And how they deal business then is also how they put their resources, where they prioritize their research, where they prioritize their marketing, and how they revamp their operations. And I think the lessons of COVID is not only in technologies, but basically on how we communicate and how we get our information and how we adapt to it and apply it so it affects us immediately. And I think that's what's happened between, I could speak for the United States, the daily communications, the involvement of the private sector with the government, and looking at all the stats and data, I think has really been implicated with the use of machine learning primarily, where you're able to take a vast amounts of data and see what trends are. You're able to track stuff on cell phones. You're able to look at things and then communicate the outcomes and adapt, the distancing and other things. And I think this is going to transcend to the business world globally. I'll see that, we're going to be looking at, first of all, I think it brings the world a lot closer in one sense, because we're all a phone call away, as we're now demonstrating now. But it's going to change things to do. And I think it's going to change the equation of how we look at research and development and prototyping, because we're doing such stuff fast. I think we've sort of ignored the fact of the input of the role of science in our era. It's been mainly done by large corporations and a profit motive. It's fine. But I think it really is a partnership now between government and people and companies to develop the next path forward to how we can better the world through technology.
So even with its negative effects, it's made some difference. It's brought us closer as individuals and as business.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I think we're now tuned in. and we're looking at the impact, and we're looking at the potentials.
So, Chuck, you have been named top tech person to follow by LinkedIn. So, how has being a leading influencer helped you change the way businesses accept technology?
Yeah, interesting enough, I think the LinkedIn platform has really been a catalyst for a lot of things I've done, just because it's the type of people on it are everyone from CEOs down to entry workers, and I think people are looking at what you put out in thought leadership. So I think a lot of the writings and posts and interviews and things like these that I've included on LinkedIn have created basically an opportunity for me to be an evangelist to promote emerging technologies, to promote their use, and of course cybersecurity too, because with having such interconnectivity also comes opportunities for the bad guys. And when the bad guys do it, you need to protect yourself, and cybersecurity is the means to do it. But in a nutshell, I think having this role on LinkedIn has really given me a personal platform, and I'm able to use it through my work in media, in academia, and of course in business. So I'm grateful for it.
Really nice honor to be recognized by LinkedIn.
Oh yes, yeah. I mean, it's really I think for business particularly, and it's really become a tremendous forum. Just the groups themselves and the posts, and I really there's so much good stuff out there. You really I used to when I grew up was Encyclopedia Britannica. You had to go and research stuff, but now anything you want on any subject, there's always an expert or expert post out there, and people are very friendly, and there's a lot of interaction too, and you find things every day. So I'm really excited with LinkedIn. I just passed my 60,000 follower on it. So I'm looking to get to 100,000.
Being a thought leader in cybersecurity, what measures do you think an organization should take to be safe from incidents like that?
Well, I think it starts with cyber hygiene. You're seeing, along with the COVID-19, you're seeing a whole lot of phishing attacks, masking, and replicating legitimate sites like Johns Hopkins University put out a site tracking it. They take the photo and they send it, and they said you got to open this link, and it's a phishing attack. So I think one of the first things that people have to do is beware of the nefarious environment around them, and certainly not click on links that they don't recognize, and double check to see where the sources are. They also have to have backups if they can. They should use VPNs to protect their networks, and if they're sophisticated, they have a small business, they want to probably encrypt some of the more sensitive items they have there. But I think it all starts with sort of awareness, because there's so many threats out there, not just from nation states and organized crime, but just from hacktivists who are causing nuisances. And it's easy for them to do, to get to you. And you have to recognize that everyone's vulnerable, and the more you do to have a sort of a layered effect and awareness and basic cybersecurity hygiene, the less probability that something's going to happen to you.
You can never really be safe as long as it's self-aware.
Yeah, there's no such thing as ultimate safety, but you can do measures just like you do when you go out to shopping wherever. You always look around you, see who's there. There's organized crime and crime everywhere, and it's just very easy for people to do it remotely from corners of the globe and attack you, and there's no ability to see who they are unless you're like a government agency or a big corporation that has the capability. So, for individuals, I always recommend do as much as you can and read up on it too. Because you have to look at where the threats are coming from so you can protect yourself, particularly things like nowadays like ransomware, which are very prevalent.
And what do you believe are the opportunities and challenges for technology today? Where do you see it evolving from business a few years from now?
I think we're going to have a really exponential change in the next decade. And largely because it's because of the advent of new technologies such as 5G, which will allow for greater bandwidth and rapid sharing of information. The amount of new satellites being put up to share communications, and particularly the Internet of Things, which is 50 billion connected devices. So I think in telemedicine now, which is happening remote, we're seeing that a lot because of COVID. That's been accelerated. So I think we're in a really interesting era where I think technology is really going to define who we are and what we do. And as I said earlier, I think artificial intelligence is sort of going to be the backbone of that. or machine learning initially before we get to that level of depth. But it's interesting now that there's actually technology that could translate brain thoughts into sentences. So, I think we're years ago we thought 2001 was going to be game changing, and the movie came out with Stanley Kubrick, and there'd be robots basically intelligence. We're not there yet, but we're much closer. And I think in the next 10 years, we're going to see a lot more, and it's going to affect everything we do and everywhere we go.
How do you see it improving customer service, especially?
I've already seen that. I think part of the of technology that for consumers is large companies have already been able to look at the behavioral aspects of how we shop, what we buy, what they're constantly doing basically polls and stuff and seeing, but they're also monitoring now, and they can, because of the large amounts of data and ability to surveil your data on Google and other things, so what you click on, they're able to basically look at what the ideal buyer would want. And so customer service is adapting to that. It's also, when we go back to normal, when we have retail stores again, I think you're going to see interesting things where you could basically, you go to a screen and shape the kind of product you want to get, and they will be able to sort of get it for you. So I think there'll be a lot of different things between customer service and interaction. And of course, the biggest thing I think is these bots that are coming out now that can answer your questions, and it's not necessarily required on people to be up at all hours of the night, but bots are getting more sophisticated with the machine learning capabilities, and that's going to be another area of customer service that's going to improve a lot.
Especially when everybody's working from home now, chatbots.
Yes. Yeah, that's for sure. I mean, working at home now is that you are your personal, your social, and your business life are now intertwined, and you're going to use all these technological capabilities, all three of those. And going back to the cyber thing again, that's probably one of the best lessons I give is trying to keep your personal separated from your business if you have two computers, because that's where a lot of the cyber issues come up. And but it's not easy to do, and it's probably more difficult now with people mostly working at remote locations. But that will be a trend.
And what advice would you give someone on leveraging technology at the startup level in building a winning business?
I would say that if you're going to design a business, you have to look at the capabilities that are out there today and out there tomorrow. I'd say, look at republications like MIT Technology Review, Futurism, and all these things, because the rapid pace of technological change is such an impact on business right now that things you could develop now could be obsolete in 5 months. So, at the same time, you want to look at what's working for others. So there's nothing, you don't have to invent everything new. You can learn from the value of others. I think Amazon's the great example of there, by building a whole business, originally from selling books to looking at the fact that people want to buy stuff online, and they want to have service to their door, and they want to have ability to call up and see and rate the product. So I think that's going to be, part of those kind of trends where you look at your businesses, where the market is, where you can see your personas and your buyers, and use technology to sort of gather the data or promote the data through marketing, through technological means, and especially through social media.
So you're saying it doesn't matter how big or small a business is, it's how fast you adapt to technology.
That's a good way of putting it. I think it sort of equalizes the playing field now. If you have a good idea, a good product, I think everyone has capability now to market that product and sell that product.
So Chuck, is there any advice you'd like to give our viewers?
Yeah, my advice to give the viewers is stay tuned, because I think after we beat this horrible virus, I think we're going to have a new era of innovation, new era of technology, and I think that now's the time to sort of take this time to learn what's out there, to certify, take certification courses, read. One of the values I think of what's happened in a good way is that now things are many courses now are online that never were before. Everything used to be paid in person, but I think you can take advantage of that sitting from your house to learn about areas in cybersecurity, learn about engineering, learn about artificial intelligence. And the more you learn, the more valuable that is going to be for your life and for your business in the future.
That was lovely, Chuck. Yeah, it's time to work on ourselves now.
Work on ourselves.
Thank you so much. It was lovely talking to you.
Great talking to you. I appreciate it, and stay safe.
Sure, viewers are going to love this.
Great. Thank you.